Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn with New Jersey Economic Development Authority, EDA, and the Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy Program, or CPACE. Just a couple of housekeeping items. We are recording today's Lunch and Learn. Um, Paul Penna of the League will be monitoring the chat box. If you have any questions along the way, please type them in the chat box. If it's easy, Paul will respond to it. If not, we'll do the questions at the end of the presentation. So joining us today is Rudy Rodas, Managing Director of Policy and Research and Government with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, and Max Frank, Senior Product Officer for Clean Energy Programs. They will be discussing how the program will provide a new form of financing for renewable energy efficiency, water conservation, and certain types of resiliency-related improvements for New Jersey. Repayment for these investments are made via special assessment, like a sewer charge, and thus municipalities must opt in to participate in CPACE. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Rudy to begin the program.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here with you all. Before we get into presentation, just wanted to touch base on our government affairs functions. Again, I'm Rudy Rodas, Managing Director for Policy Research and Government Affairs. If your municipalities need any assistance with EDA programs, if you have constituents who've applied for a program and they're looking for additional support or questions regarding their applications, please reach out to our office. Please reach out to me, and we're happy to assist with that. So I just want to make sure you saw us as a resource. That being said, I'm going to turn it over to Max to talk about CPACE. Thanks so much.
Great. Thanks, Rudy, and thanks, Lori, for the intros. So my name is Max Frank. I am a senior project officer on the clean energy team here at the EDA. I've been with the EDA for about 2.5 years now and started on day one with the Garden State CPACE program, which is today's subject. So as Lori mentioned, the CPACE program is new to New Jersey, but not new to the country. And we'll touch on that in a few slides. But, basically this program has been around in some form for the last decade plus a few years, starting out in California, and has since expanded since 2009 or so, and recently got EDA board approval back in October of 2024, so only a few months ago, to actually become a legitimate official program within the EDA. So now we are working towards our first project application, but in advance of that, we really need the attention of municipalities because there are some action items for municipalities in order for projects to be undertaken. So that said, just some basics here, and Lori already gave a brief intro on this, but CPACE is a loan program. It is unique in that it's a loan program offered by state government, but using only private capital. So we'll touch on that in a bit. But CPACE targets clean energy and resiliency related improvements in commercial buildings. And here, commercial buildings is pretty expansive. It covers, of course, commercial buildings, zone commercial, also industrial, agricultural, institutional, some nonprofits, and multifamily, so long as the multifamily building has at least 5 units. So like I said, CPACE has 40 plus other programs. Some states have multiple programs within them. New Jersey, there's only a single Garden State CPACE program, only one CPACE program. It is offered by the EDA. We are the program administrator. But that said, the program does exist in over 30 other states. As I mentioned, private lenders are the source of capital here. It is 100% private financing, but there is a unique financing mechanism that enables all of these different benefits that we'll walk through, but no public dollars here, no tax dollars, nothing. Why CPACE is unique is because the financing is very similar to a second mortgage, almost functionally a second mortgage, but looks like a sewer charge, a municipal charge on your tax bill. So one is that the repayment is collected as an addition to the property tax payment. So again, it's really just a line item on your property tax bill, which in New Jersey would be billed annually, collected quarterly. For commercial properties, of course, there may be unique circumstances with escrow. Two is that the loan is senior to any other mortgage on the property. So if you have a lien on the property, CPACE by law must be senior to that. EDA has drafted all of the legal documents that are needed, including a lender consent form. Three is that it's transferable. So in the event the ownership of the property changes, the CPACE loan does not go away. It stays with the property. It's non-recourse. And then the next property owner to come in assumes that payment, right? And then four here is that collectively these factors reduce the risk of the loan. And then ultimately that allows the private lender to lend for a longer term. Here we're talking up to 30 years, but more importantly, or of equal importance rather, at a lower interest rate. So generally, EDA does not set the rates here. It's really just up for discussion between a property owner and a lender, a capital provider. But those rates generally float around 300 to 400 basis points over the 10-year treasury, but of course, subject to change based off of who you're talking to with that respective deal. That said, those rates, you may be thinking to yourself, if you're familiar with rates, those are kind of competitive rates when you're talking about construction loans. Sure, but CPACE really comes in to fill a gap in your capital stack, in the capital stack of a developer, right? So, and I understand that these are mostly municipalities on the call here, but it's important for them to understand exactly what this project entails, what this program does for projects. So CPACE fills generally the gap where mezzanine debt would traditionally fill, and mezzanine debt is much, much higher interest rates, and CPACE can come in and really lower the cost of capital, really helping projects pencil out. So some more market data here just to show you, what CPACE has done. So this is through 2024. And you can see here almost $10 billion in projects covering, over 3,500 commercial projects, creating, which the EDA loves, creating 122,000 jobs. And this is national, but we look to really make a mark in New Jersey. And you can see on the top right here that just this last year in 2024 alone, the program did $2.4 billion out of this $9.7 billion. So the industry is really picking up steam. So CPACE is a pretty expansive program, one of the more expansive programs on the clean energy team within the EDA. There are other programs, and always happy to chat about those if anyone's interested. But CPACE covers everything you see here. So energy efficiency, renewable energy systems, EV charging, energy storage, water conservation, and then the three resiliency components on the bottom. There are different types of CPACE projects. So you can have a retrofit project where a project owner, a property owner could use CPACE for 100% of the improvements you see here on the screen. But what we're generally seeing as the trend in New Jersey is that new construction projects are really dominating the CPACE market. And when we start opening these applications, we expect probably 60 to 70% of these projects being new construction. And new construction is really where the CPACE value add comes into play. Because, like I said, you can finance up to 35% as a property owner, 35% of the stabilized value of your property if you are including what you see on the screen in your development. And that's a lot of money. If you have a property that's valued when stabilized at $100 million, you can finance $35 million as a property owner with CPACE. So some high-level program eligibility. First, and the reason for this webinar is that any project looking to undertake a CPACE project needs to be located within a participating municipality, and that requires municipalities to opt in. We'll touch on this a bit more down the road in this webinar, but really at a high level, what that entails is first adopting the opt-in ordinance, which EDA has drafted in collaboration with the Attorney General's office. And the second being the municipality must enter into a program agreement, which is also drafted by the EDA. Both of those documents are final right now, also live right now on our program website. for simplicity, if you just Google NJEDA CPACE, it will be the first link. On the right side of that website, you will see the documents. Right now, the other documents on this page are really drafts, but these two documents for municipalities, the opt-in ordinance and the program agreement, are final and ready for action. So moving down here, eligible costs, again, pretty expansive, covers your direct costs like your hard costs of actual materials, also indirect costs, which could include labor, and of course, any financing and program fees. There are no fees for municipalities to participate. In fact, and this is also on a later slide, municipalities can actually charge property owners per project per year for the administrative costs of putting this on your tax bill. Just really quickly, I've already touched this, but the financing terms can cover up to 100% of project costs, terms up to 30 years. Property owners have to obtain mortgage holder consent if there's a mortgage or any kind of construction debt or any lien on the property. And again, really important to know that the EDA is really just the program administrator here. The terms for these deals are negotiated solely between the owner of the property and the capital provider or the lender. So first, again, a reminder, this is 100% private capital. I threw this slide together just to show that this is a unique mechanism for repaying financing. So starting on the top left, you'll see a private capital provider. That is the entity that's going to provide the upfront capital for these projects. Then, the property owner will go undertake this project, and then they're responsible for making regular payments for that project through an assessment that is placed on the property. That gets paid, of course, to the municipality. The municipality's job is to collect that as they would collect a municipal sewer charge or taxes, and then remit just that CPACE amount back to the capital provider. All of these documents are drafted by the EDA, will be live eventually in the coming weeks, but there are draft versions of these documents, such as the assessment agreement and assignment agreement, on the website that you are more than welcome to take a look at. Some responsibilities of the different program participants. So of course, municipalities have to opt into the program and agree to collect and remit the money. If need be, although very rarely, enforce through the act of foreclosure. At no point is the municipality ever responsible for paying any amount of the CPACE assessment. If for whatever reason the CPACE assessment goes to a tax sale and is struck off and sold to the municipality, still the municipality just holds that, is never responsible for paying that. Eventually, the next property owner would become responsible for continuing the payments. Capital providers, very obvious one. They are the ones providing the financing, and ultimately, they generally manage the process for project applicants. A lot of the times, the CPACE, especially the CPACE specialty lenders, act as consultants to help guide property owners through the application process, because there is a lot to know for property owners when it comes to the different criteria and eligibility of, the reviewer, the municipality, the capital provider, the project, etc. The evaluator is really just our first line of defense for making sure that the project is meeting all of our technical requirements, not really anything for municipal officials to worry about. And the technical reviewer is the second line of defense behind that evaluator, just to ensure that everything is in fact eligible, and then ultimately sign a certification that's signed by, or that is submitted by the property owner when applying. Some benefits to the different program participants here. And this is all recorded and will be sent out. So there's a lot of words here. Feel free to review at a later time and then come back to me if you have any questions. But at a high level, property owner, of course, they're getting longer term financing, lower interest rates, as I discussed, helps projects pencil out, no personal guarantees. And this is all voluntary. And of course, again, it's transferable. So if it does go to the next owner is responsible. Municipalities, which is everyone here, you're supporting measures that will reduce greenhouse gas and other pollutants. You are also supporting resiliency measures because, as I mentioned, CPACE covers resiliency measures such as floodwater mitigation and hurricane mitigation. And perhaps most importantly is enhancing the tax base because of the improvements to these properties and new construction projects, right? So if CPACE is part of a capital stack and helping projects pencil out, those are projects that may otherwise not happen without CPACE, right? So if those projects did not happen, then you would not be getting the extra ratables from these projects versus if they do happen, of course, without, it goes without saying. And the last thing here is, of course, boosting local economic development. As I mentioned, 122,000 jobs from CPACE alone around the country. So really looking to get that number up in New Jersey. We have a really robust pipeline. I'm going to skip mortgage holders, contractors, and capital providers just because, again, you can see this when we send it out, but it's all here. The most important thing would be for property owners and municipalities. So we are coming to the end here and happy to answer any questions, but the ask is this slide. So if you were to take anything away from this presentation, it would be this slide. So I ask for you to please consider becoming a participating municipality as we've defined it in the guidelines, which are also posted to the website. To do so, you have to adopt the CPACE program ordinance, as we've discussed, enter into the program agreement, as we've discussed. Both of these are a one-time action, not per project. Why you should participate? Well, first, there's absolutely no harm in participating. There's no sign-up cost to participate. And once you do this, the ordinance sits there unused if there's never a project. But if you do adopt the ordinance sooner rather than later, even if you don't know of a project in your jurisdiction, it makes it a lot easier for that project to actually happen when the time comes versus having that project wait for the municipality to act on actually adopting the ordinance. So, for example, there are municipalities around the state right now where there are projects, but because the documents were not ready until recently for municipalities to participate, those projects have been sitting there with everything in order except the CPACE financing because they've been waiting for the municipality to adopt the ordinance. So we can easily get around this as an issue in the future if you take action now because there's no cost to do so and there's no harm in having an ordinance sit there. Another reason why there's really not much work on the municipal side of things. All the documents are pre-drafted. Of course, your attorneys are probably going to review these, which is totally acceptable. We expect that, but the heavy lift of drafting these documents is already done. And also really important to be aware here that a municipality is enabled to recoup up to $1,250 per project per year for administrative costs. There's more information on that in the program guidelines, which again are posted to the program website, but that would likely more than cover the actual administrative costs that you recognize from a project. We're also not anticipating that the pipeline is hundreds of projects off the bat in New Jersey, right? Especially if you're a smaller municipality, you can expect maybe one, two, three projects every few years, right? If you're a municipality of sub 10,000 people, I wouldn't expect more than two, three projects every few years. Of course, if you're a larger municipality like Newark, where there's a lot of development going on, it's a different story. But still, even then, maybe, 6 to 15 projects every few years. It really depends. And of course, there's a market cycle here. But we are happy to receive your feedback. If you think that $1,200 is not enough or is too much, we're willing to have that discussion and then consider making amendments to our program guidance down the road. So that does cover all of the information. Happy to take any questions, whether they're now or happy to take anything via email here. So here's the program email. There's the program website. Hit me with whatever questions you've got. Now or in the future, no pressure.
Thank you, Max. While we're waiting for folks, if you have questions, please type them into the chat box and we'll be able to ask Max and Rudy your questions. While we're waiting for folks to type in any questions, do you have a sample opt-in ordinance that we can share with individuals on this call?
I do, yeah. I can send that up immediately after we get off this webinar. I will send the ordinance as well as the program agreement, 2 documents.
Okay. And can you give some examples of some projects that are in the pipeline or have been successful?
Sure. Tough to touch on successful projects just because we haven't closed any projects yet, given that this is still a relatively new program. And we haven't even launched the project application yet. So that's expected in the coming months. But what we expect are a lot of large multifamily development projects, as well as some warehouse projects that look to, include more efficient insulation, HVAC systems, lighting, windows, doors, all that fun stuff. They're going to bundle into one big CPACE assessment and then use the program for that, as well as some warehouses that look to put solar on their roofs. But a bulk of the pipeline are larger multifamily development projects, some of which include existing EDA incentives like the Aspire tax credit, others that do not. There are case studies for other states' programs on the internet, though, so I encourage anyone who's interested to just Google CPACE case studies. You'll find plenty.
I'm going to turn it over to Paul because I've seen a couple.
Great. Thank you, Lori. So first question from Melinda, who determines the term of assessment? And can you describe how this program is going to be marketed to commercial property owners?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the term of the assessment per the statute is tied to the useful life of the improvements that are part of the project. So if you have a project that is just 100% solar panels, generally have a effective useful life, call it 20 years. So if your project only consists of solar, the term of the assessment would be 20 years because that is the useful life of the solar panels. Let me see, can you describe how this program? So we are doing a lot to market this program. One of the ways we're getting the word out is through the municipalities and encouraging municipalities, Chamber of Commerce, et cetera, to spread the word to anyone within their municipality. Hey, CPACE exists. It's a great program. You should use it if you're eligible for A, B, and C. And of course, we use that means also for other EDA programs because there are plenty of them. We are also leveraging the existing network of capital providers who are boots on the ground. They have their network of developers, property owners, et cetera, and they're doing a really good job of getting the word out there, because it's what makes them money, but ultimately, the benefits of these projects flow down to the local government level.
Great. Thank you, Max. I had a question. You had talked about 35% of the stabilized value. Does that include any other incentives? There are a lot of incentives in this space, separate and apart from this program sign up. So how does that factor into the financing?
Yeah, so CPACE is very flexible, and you can use CPACE with a lot of different debt, but also any other kind of financing from any level of government, whether it's local, county, state, whatever it is, federal. You can use CPACE with all of the above. It's really up to the property owner to find a lender who's willing to work with that project, make sure it pencils out, and then come to us with a project, submit the application, and then we'll discuss with you on whether or not it's eligible. And we'll go from there. But we've seen all kinds of projects come through in other states. So yeah, if you can imagine it, we can probably work with it.
That's good to hear. I don't see any further questions in the chat box. So, Max, if you have any final closing words, and Lori, if you have any final closing words, we can give everyone a little bit of time back this afternoon.
Yeah, I'll really just finish by saying again, there's really no harm in at least considering this ordinance. No cost, one-time action. You can undo it if you ever want to with proper notice. But there's really no reason why you would want to, because there's really no harm. So if you have any further questions, again, please reach out to Garden State CPACE at njeda.gov. Look through our website. There's some more programmatic information there, summaries, documents. It's all there on the website. So again, happy to talk further as needed.
And
Great. Thank you, Matt. Oh, sorry, Lori. Go
no,
ahead.
that's right. I was just going to thank Max and Rudy for the presentation. We will email all the participants on the call a copy of the presentation as well as the ordinance and program agreement. And if you have any questions along the way, please reach out to Max or us, and we'll be able to direct you in the right spot. Again, thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Great.
Thanks,